So we're going to go a little bit deeper in terms of funding. And I would actually, let me just do, we're here until 2? Yeah, okay. I would like to make this the most useful as possible. And here's what goes on. Here's a story I'm making up inside my head. I have all these slides. I have so much stuff that I could just broadcast. But what I'd actually really like to do is Q&A if people have specific issues, so it's unbelievably relevant. As a female entrepreneur, you are so busy with so little time to get done what you need to get done. And so you don't need information that you don't need. So I'm going to just start by telling a little bit of my story, just a bit, so that you can know the sort of scope of what I could potentially help you with. And then I'd love to move to Q&A, okay? So I've had every kind of funding there is for, I've created 5 businesses, but also dozens and dozens of programs and initiatives over the last 25 plus years. Had every kind of funding except for private equity. So if you have questions around loans or grants or friends and family rounds or going public, any of these kinds of things, I'm very happy to answer any questions around that. And then I'd like to go a little bit into the kinds of funding that are out there, the sort of lessons I've learned, common mistakes that I see people making. And then if we have time, I'd like to just go a little bit into how you might get really clear on the 2 questions, which I think are the only 2 questions that matter, period, about you presenting yourself, which is why you and why now. These are my 2 favorite questions, and those are the 2 first questions in the CEO application form. Because if you can answer why you are the person to solve the problem you're solving and why now is the time, that is very, very interesting to investors. So we'll go a little deeper in that. Maybe talk about your perfect funder, and then we'll see if we can help each other after that, okay? So as I mentioned, I've had pretty much every kind of funding there is. I would like to just say off the bat that if you can avoid getting money from other people, please do. The easiest way to grow your business, well, the hardest and easiest way to grow your business is to get a customer and have someone pay you for the product or service that you have. I have a friend who's on our board at SheEO, Janice Diner, who launched her fintech company and was profitable from the very first day she launched. And every time that she needs more money, she goes and gets a new customer. She's like, if I need to raise a round of funding, I get a customer. And she's just unbelievable at going and getting customers and building her business that way, which is literally the opposite way that we are teaching people to raise money today. We're all obsessed with like getting angels and VCs and getting a whole bunch of money and then going and doing something. And one of the reasons we started SheEO the way we did with loans is because we think the vast majority of women running businesses do get loans and do need debt financing because they have customers already, because it's hard for them to get the other kinds of funding. So we focus a lot on debt. And I just really love the debt space. And it is literally the exact opposite of what most people will tell you in schools or programs today that you need to start your business. But I think the pendulum's kind of swung way too far in the way of venture capital and angel realm, and it needs to kind of come back to find a customer, find someone who will buy your product or service and get it to market that way. So getting customers is like the best growth strategy. The other part around that that's great about it is you're in control of your business. You can spend the money on your business how you want to spend it to build the culture you want without anyone else telling you how to do it, which is the expensive part of when you have an investor. They tend to start to tell you what to do, which for me as an entrepreneur sucks because I don't like anyone telling me what to do. I became an entrepreneur so I could do it my way. So if that resonates with you, think very carefully about the kind of funding you're looking for. But that being said, there are some businesses that are just impossible to bootstrap, and you have to really go and build something first before you can actually get a customer. But it's a lot cheaper than it used to be to do those kinds of things. So the types of funding that I sort of mentioned, bootstrapping, obviously, savings and credit cards. If anyone has a job right now and you're thinking of starting a business, go out and get the maximum line of credit you can on every credit card. You don't have to fill up your credit cards before you do that, but get the maximum line of credit you can, and get the maximum limits you can on credit cards as well. Because if you're going to go and start a business, it's always twice as hard as you thought it was, and takes you twice as long to get there. Almost always. So make sure you have a little bit extra bandwidth than you need if you're going to go out and do that. There are a lot of grant programs in Canada, which is different than a lot of other markets in other countries. And this is a really, really cool thing to be able to access money from federal government programs and provincial government programs. Has anyone here tried MentorWorks, that organization? Yeah, that's for funding, right? I think that's coming to my mind right now. It's not free? They charge? Okay. I wasn't sure about that. That's why I was asking. So there's an organization called MentorWorks that helps with that. But I also, there are a lot of places to go and get information about grants and loans, and a number of websites. And we'll share some resources afterwards online around that. We talked a little bit this morning around crowdfunding, which is personally my favorite thing that's happened in the last 5 years around funding. The ability to go out and test your product or service and have people pre-buy something before you've really made it, to then send out into the world to start your business off, is like a great way of testing things. I actually crowdfunded my book, which was really a fun thing to do, and we raised, I can't remember how much, $30,000 I think, to do that. And so trying out these different approaches for funding, especially in crowdfunding, I think is really, really powerful. It also helps you get really tight on telling your story, because you're not going to be successful getting people to sign up unless you're good at telling that story, and crowdfunding really gets you to practice. We mentioned briefly the incubators and accelerators, which are pretty much focused on technology companies these days. So if you're not in the tech space, you'll find yourself having a bit of a glut out there. A number of people talked to me at the break, asking about where to go for their business. But it is, like, I just have to say, it's so much harder if you have a product or service that is not in the tech space to get support these days. And we really, really would like to be part of the solution of changing that with SheEO, but we're just getting started, and we have 6 people on our team, and we're doing 4 countries this year. So we have a few things going on. But we know this problem needs to be solved. And I think the more that we come together and see the opportunity, someone's going to come out with a cool idea on how to support all of us in this space. Is there anyone here who's had Futurepreneur loan? Yeah, a couple of people, great. So if you're 39 or under, Futurepreneur is an option for loans. You don't have to put up your house or anything crazy like you might have to at a bank. But it's a pretty solid network out there. If you are interested in getting more information, you just go to futurepreneur.ca, I believe. Again, we can share that after for more information. And there's a lot of women in our network who have had Futurepreneur funding who can talk to you about that experience if you'd like. This is a great thing to put in the Google Doc if you want someone to help you with that. Is there anyone here at all who wants information on angels or venture capital that you think that's your space? A few? Okay. So I'll just talk sort of top line around angels and VCs, but angel investors are usually the first ones who come in right after you've done sort of friends and family to get a bit of a prototype in play. And they usually, the sort of the rules of the game around angels are they basically take 30% of your company. So when you go get your first angel round, they invest under $2 million in your company and roughly take 30%, is kind of how the math goes. There are all these really weird rules, in case you're not familiar with this space, in angel and VC that I found super bizarre, clearly not made by women. They're like really strange rules. So one of them is, in venture capital, I was making a presentation with one of my companies to some VCs in Silicon Valley, and I was on slide 17 going through it, and they were all nodding, going, this is great, this is great. And in the 5th year column of my revenue, so you project your revenue out 5 years to show where you think you'll be. And in the 5th column, I had $68 million in revenue. And of course, we all know projections, right? Like they're made up, they're not real. And they said, oh, yeah, we're not interested. And I said, what do you mean you're not interested? And they said, oh, well, that has to be a minimum of $100 million for us to be an investor. VCs, it's $100 million. And I'm like, you do know that that's made up, right? It's a made up number. You want me to go change the number to 100 million? That's the way we keep the conversation going. And it was an unwritten rule that I was unaware of. So just so you know, if you want to have a venture capital support for your business, you need to be on the rate of getting to $100 million in revenue in your 5th year. So if that's nowhere near what you're talking about, you never have to listen to a VC conversation again. Goodbye. Right? Everyone, I literally have people coming to me who barely are going to make revenue saying, how do I get a venture capitalist? I'm like, you're not going to. Don't think about it. So just to give you a sense, that's the sort of game. And then the angel piece, as I mentioned, they take roughly 30% of your company. And they come in under $2 million. So that's just a sort of idea of that space. No matter who you're getting money from in that sort of friends and family or angel space, it's extremely important to make sure that you have a values connection with this person or these people. It's super tough when you're running a business and things never go the way that you think they will. Things always go sideways, crazy stuff happens. And when the going gets tough, the last thing you need is somebody coming down on you who doesn't have your values set, trying to take over your company. So I would really ask you to sit back and think about this like you're thinking about finding a partner in life. What kind of funder do you want? What do they represent? What kind of values do they have? Are they aligned with your vision for what you are going to do in the world? Do you feel like you have synergistic conversations with you? Like when you sit down, do they make you feel smarter? Or do they make you feel dumb? Do they scare you in a good way? Do they stretch you? I mean, these are the kinds of things that you need to know about yourself, what motivates and inspires you. And then being surrounded by money that is like that is very, very helpful. If they come from a completely different place and the first time you miss a milestone, they want to hammer you, that's probably not the right person to have on your team. So the challenge with all of this is it requires you to think that there's abundance out there instead of scarcity. That's the hard work of shifting your mindset. Most people think, they're like dying to go get any kind of money. It just doesn't matter, just get the money. But having the wrong kind of money can really mess things up for you. So that's just some top line thinking in that space. I've gone through a few of these pieces. So I'd like to just kind of go to the top lessons for a second because I've learned a lot of these things the hard way, but the on your own terms, which is what I just kind of talked about, is this ability to be clear about what it is you're trying to achieve in the world and make sure that everybody that comes onto your team supports that. I've heard a lot over the years that this is the way you're supposed to do it. If you're in the retail space and you have less than $500,000 in revenue, here are the 3 things you need to do to be successful. I'd just like you to please stop believing anything that says here are the 5 ways to be a top leader, the 7 ways to go to market, the 6 ways to market your business. Like, it's all BS. It's clickbait. And it's also, if you follow someone else's path, you can't be who you're meant to be. You have to find your own way. And I also think if I have this phrase that I use all the time, everything's broken, what a great time to be alive. When you look out the window, when I look out the window, I think we've kind of messed up this world, right? 8 people have the same wealth as 3.5 billion people on the planet right now. 8 people. When I started CEO, it was 85. Last year it was 62. Now it's 8 people. So if we continue to follow what other people have done before us, we're going to get more of the same world. And that's not what the world needs from us. It needs each and every one of us to find our path for what we're meant to create in the world and to do it our way. It doesn't mean don't go ask for advice from someone who's been there before, but it also means if it doesn't feel right to you, take a deep breath and think about it and trust your intuition. Because every big mistake I've made in my life has been when I thought someone knew better than me. That stuff always gets you. So really building and trusting your gut And building your confidence in that is extremely important. If someone says, oh, you just have to grow, you have to hire 4 more people, and you have to get going fast, and you think, I don't really want to do that, then don't do that. You do not have to go big if you don't want to. You have to just trust what works for you. So this is what we mean by on your own terms. The next piece, which is my favorite phrase, which is follow the energy. So I was just talking to somebody upstairs, and they said, how did you pick New Zealand as one of your countries for SheEO? And I said, actually, we didn't pick New Zealand. New Zealand picked us. And this is the follow the energy thing. We have lots of countries that we'd like to go to in the world, but New Zealand came to us and invited us there. And we went there, and almost 400 women signed up being there. It was really, really fast, and it was very bottom up. And it was a country that just made it happen. So we are following the energy. So if someone will not stop emailing us, that's where we're going next. And I would really encourage you to think about this. If you're pushing your agenda or your idea or your product out there and there's no energy coming back from whoever you're pushing it towards, shift your message, shift what you're doing, rethink things. This is my test for absolutely everything. How much energy am I putting into something versus the impact that's coming back? If you're working so hard and it's not coming back at you, you need to rethink. Is it the right idea? Is it the right approach? Do I need to change my message? So really trust. Does that make sense? The energy? Yeah. Really trust. Before I started SheEO, when I had this idea, I would go to conferences wherever I was speaking. At the end, I'd say, hey, I have this really crazy idea, super crazy. What if 1 million women crowdfunded $1 billion and didn't expect a return on that money, and we were loaning it to female entrepreneurs? What do you think about that? And at first there was a lot of silence, and the more I said it, the more stuff started coming back. And then I'd have people come up to me and go, can I write you a check right now? And then someone said, I cannot stop thinking about that. You have to do it. And it was literally at that point when it really started to come back to me that I jumped and went for the idea. So testing things out and really noticing what comes back at you is critical. And I would just kind of pay attention to that. On the same side of that, my favorite thing that my husband helped me with a couple of years ago, we do this sort of summary phrase for the year. What is the thing that you're working on? And my thing was, comma, with ease. I wanted whatever I was going to do to happen with ease. And so if it was really hard, and I don't mean the hard work, but I mean if it really just didn't feel like it was coming back to me around the energy, I wouldn't do it. And so I think about this all the time. So if sponsorship's really hard for us at SheEO, we stopped looking for sponsors. And when it happened really easily, we're like, great, this is what we're going to do. But really pay attention to what happens with ease. And I think this is a fascinating challenge for entrepreneurs because I think we're often trained to do things that are supposed to be really hard. Like I was mentoring a few entrepreneurs, and they came to me and said, we're looking for a really hard problem to solve. And I looked at them, I'm like, why? Why don't you do something that's easy for you, that only you see? And that's what I think about with the work that I'm doing with SheEO. I am so in the zone. Like, give me a question, I can answer any question. I've had 25 years of experience on the ground as an entrepreneur. Like, bring it. Ask anything. And it's effortless, really, for me to do that. And so think about, like, are you really the person to be solving the problem that you're solving? And does it energize you? Because every morning when you wake up, you need to, like, it's tough, as we all know. If you're not super jazzed about everything you're doing, maybe you should think of something else. And these, I know we're in the funding session talking about these things, but again, all of these lessons really pertain to how you fund your business and grow your business. I think money comes when you're in the right spot. Money follows vision. And so these are things that have been really, really useful to me. I talked about knowing the rules. I guess the last piece now is really just, I had mentioned this earlier, but if you want money, ask for advice. And you want advice, ask for money. And I just talked to you about this from an example that happened to me. My uncle, who was one of my first mentors, told me this. And I thought it was kind of interesting. And so I tried it out and one of the first things I created when I came back to Canada after living overseas for a little while. And I called up someone in the federal government and I said, I don't want money, but I just need you. And she goes, what did you just say? I said, well, I don't want money. She goes, what? Like only people that called her were looking for money. And I said, I don't want money. Here's what I'm trying to do. And she just was so blown away by that she listened. I was on the phone for like an hour and a half with her. And I asked her all these questions and she got very engaged in the problem I was trying to solve. And thought it was really cool. And she's like, okay, bye. Oh, it was so nice to talk to you. Thank you. Hang up. A month and a half later, she called me. Do you want $150,000? I'm like, whoa, it works. This is like so exciting. And so it was one of those, the way to engage people, I've learned this over and over and over. So many people would like to help you. And if you don't walk in through the normal door where if they're a gatekeeper on money and the first thing you ask them is, I need money, I'm struggling, they don't want to hear that. You go, I'm trying to solve this problem in the world. Here's how I'm approaching it. What do you think about that? Could I have 5 minutes of your time to talk to you about what I'm trying to create? And see if you can kind of get in a different way in the conversation with them and get them engaged in helping you think about your problem. Because when this happens to you, when a friend asks you something and they're like, I'm really trying to figure this out. And then you're in the shower a couple hours later, you're like, oh, I have an idea for them. Like that stays in people's brains, that engagement opportunity, and comes back around. So I cannot overestimate this approach of asking for advice instead of money to start off any conversation when you really want money. Until everyone starts to do this, and we'll have to create another way to do it. So a few more things, and then I'd like to go to Q&A. So how many people are like pretty good at building networks? How many people really don't like building networks? I think it's hard. Yeah. So I have a bit of a hack for those people because I was one of the people that I get very nervous. I used to. Now I don't because people want to talk to me, so I don't have to worry about talking to other people. That's another great strategy. But when I was getting started, I'd walk into a room of all these people and go, oh my God, I'm sure the person I need is here, but all I want to do is just go home. I hate the thought of having to work this room. Also because a lot of the companies that I'd created, they were hard to explain in one sentence. What do you do? And I'd be like, oh, I hate this question. So stepping back from that, I found this amazing way to kind of hack it, which was when I met somebody who I had an instant connection with. When you meet someone, you're like, long lost soul sister, long lost soul brother, or whatever. And it's just a moment where you even can see them across the room. You're like, that person, I need to talk to that person. Whenever I find a person like that and I have that great connection and I just want to stay in touch with them forever, I always end my meeting with, who are the 5 people like you that I don't already know? And this has just helped me build my tribe. Who are the 5 people like you that I don't already know? Because that person has a vibe with you right now, and they can think in their network, who else in my network would resonate with what you're talking about and want to help you? So that's something that I found extremely helpful. Another piece that I had mentioned it a little bit earlier, but just to emphasize, is there really is no right way to do any of what you're doing. One of the things that I find I am sharing most in terms of feedback with every entrepreneur that I meet is when they come to me, they're like, am I doing it right? Does anyone here have that question? Yeah. Is this right? Am I doing it right? There really isn't a right way. Everyone has a bit of a different path. And so, again, keep asking that question, but also know that there really is not a right answer. If you look at the world the way it is right now, we really have no clue what we're doing. We're all making it up. We're all pretending we got it all covered. But really, there isn't a right way. So don't spend too much time worrying about that. The key thing, I think, is to just keep going. Keep stepping into it. Keep moving. I don't need to do that. I'm going to just pause for a sec. We have good 15 minutes. Do people have specific questions around funding or pretty much anything else? Open mic, ask what you need. Yep. Do you mind popping down? Whoever has questions, that'd be great. Thank you so much. If the mic's on. Is the mic on? Yeah.
I actually have something to share that was like a hack. So I have 2 kids, and I basically had my kids after I quit my job and started working with my husband. And so we actually get childcare subsidy for our daycare, and it was like giving ourselves a raise. So if you have kids, I would say, like, don't just think of the traditional ways of getting funding, especially as mothers. Look to whether there's also opportunities in your county to fund the things that add up on your bills. And so for us, like, we gave ourselves a $2,000 raise a month because now our childcare is taken care of. And it's not just for kids like in full-time daycare, it's also like PA days, camps and summers, et cetera. So I just wanted to share that because it was like a really liberating thing that we had to acknowledge and accept, but has been really beneficial to our family.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, and please feel free if you have other gives for the audience as well. And I'd also just like to say Michelle is here, who is a crowdfunding expert. She's done this a bunch of times. She's really, really wicked with any advice around crowdfunding. So if anyone has questions around that, please feel free to ask. And if you just pop over the mic, that would be great. Or you have a mic right there. Yeah. If you just turn on your mic, you're good. Yeah. Yeah.
Now I can practice how to be Toronto.
Yes, counselor.
My question is, I'm in the business of medical device, and we will have to raise lots of money because it will be a combination of drug and medical device. Do you have any advice on when is a good timing to ask for VCs help? If it's at an early stage or later on, and also if there is a resource where I can find information about grants, because I know that there is lots of grants, small ones, bigger ones for technology, for women.
Yeah, so have you actually gone to Mars, to the Mars built, do you know about Mars?
Yeah, we went through York University, we went to Mars Innovation.
Yeah.
They were interested about what we are doing, but they asked us to come back with more results. So This is what we are doing.
Right, exactly. So there you go. I think when you get to that next level, that's a very good place in the city for the kind people who have capital, who are interested in that space, often go through Mars Innovation, looking at that space. The other place, have you gone to the other incubators and accelerators? So have you gone to Communitech in Waterloo?
No.
I would check out Communitech as well. And I actually have a couple of people, if you'll remind me in an email, Veronica Litinsky, if you send me that, I will make an intro. She's very good in this space and she can help you.
So my question is sort of one degree of separation from funding in the sense that I'm at a point where I think I want to get a loan. One of the reasons I want to get it is because I want to sign a lease for an office. Right now I work from home. And I just wondered yours or other people's opinion on the transition from working from home to signing a lease. And maybe there's sort of like ego reasons that I think I need an office and maybe I don't. Like, it's a big decision to make, and I just thought maybe you might have 2 cents on it.
Yeah, don't sign a lease.
Okay.
Number one thing, like, don't sign a lease. There's so much co-working space. There's all kinds of neat. Oh, you have something? Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Go to her co-working space. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I am. We don't have an office. We're squatting in one of our activators' offices with CEO. I would do anything to not sign a lease because getting locked into something for 3 years when you're not sure, and especially if you have any question at all that this is a vanity thing, for sure. But right now, there's just so many different kind of cool places to go, and you've got a co-working space, Goddess, right behind you. So I'd go work on that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Come on over to the mic. Sure. Oh, you've got a mic there. Sorry.
Is it on? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking for creative sources of funding for an arts organization. I'm trying to fund an orchestra that brings music to small communities.
Okay. Orchestra that brings music to small communities. Any ideas?
Canada Council.
Canada Council. Trillium. Someone just... What was the other
Ontario
one?
Arts Council.
OMDC?
Okay.
SoCal.
What's OMDC?
Development Corporation, Ontario Media Development Corporation. Everything's here. Who else has a question? Yeah. Yeah, just.
So I'm trying to raise money through grants right now for product development for the full feature set of WishMe. And I want to hire an in-house developer because that's faster. So what would you suggest for that?
Say a little bit more.
So we're launching an MVP next week, but I want to integrate with a gift card company. I want to release the version of the app on Android and web. And so I want to hire an in-house developer, but I need money for that. So then are there any grants I can get for that?
Have you, what's that thing called? Bitmaker Labs? Do you know Bitmaker? Yeah. Maybe try and get it as a project of one of those schools that are doing the training for developers. Through them, through Extreme Startup Labs, or maybe Ladies Learning Code. That's just a thought for anybody in here who's looking for that. Sometimes there are, they need to do projects as part of their class, and this can potentially be a way of getting done what you need. Hi.
Thank you.
So I have a question regarding funding for more so in the service-based world. As I mentioned before at my ask, I'm a Reiki practitioner. I have a space that I work out of where I see clients, and I'm also teaching. I teach Reiki classes. And so for me, I would love to find a way that I could get some funding to help me grow. Help me, and when I mean grow, it's like, okay, I have a small little space right now, and when I'm going to teach a class, I'm outsourcing. I'm paying like almost $500 a month to go to a yoga studio and use their space to teach a class. So that's one thing like I would love to expand into more. I would love
Let's just stay there for a sec.
Yeah.
So I don't quite understand. Go get tighter.
Yeah. So a lot of what I gathered today was information about if you have a product,
Yes.
if you have this idea, go here, get this idea, get this funding. I'm not necessarily in a place where I'm going to be hiring either. So I understand there's grants for if you want to hire people and, you know, youth specifically and stuff like that.
But what's your goal that you want? You want money to do what?
I would love to primarily grow my space. Like I'm in a little 104 square feet, beautiful space for me and my one-on-one clients. But where I'm really looking to go next is have a space where I can do my one-on-one sessions and have a place where, you know, I can keep everything in-house. I don't have to be going to this yoga studio or this venue to rent a space to teach a class of like 6 to 10 to 12 people. So really that's like my next step. I'm thinking, okay, how do I grow myself? How can I get a grant or a loan or something like that, even just to help me maintain my day-to-day costs of running events and my space and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so you can get, if you can show that the cash flow of having a bigger space and the demand is there for you to pay back that loan, if you can demonstrate that, you can get loans for that.
Okay.
I don't actually know of any grants for doing anything like that. Does anybody have anything that comes to mind? No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but that I think is, I mean, again, if you're going to be able to double, triple your revenue and be able to demonstrate that, then you should be able to get a loan to do that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Hi there. Thank you, Vicki, for hosting this great event. My ask is I'd like to do a Kickstarter campaign. I manufacture and distribute coats for people in wheelchairs. And I would like to work with an organization called My Team Triumph, which has got 26 chapters in the United States. They are a not-for-profit business, and I would like to produce a product for them. What they do is little mini marathons with kids in wheelchairs. So they have a captain that's in the chair and an angel pushing them. So I would like to develop a product, and I'm thinking I'd like to do a Kickstarter program.
Yep.
In order to generate some revenue in order to help them. So my ask is, if anybody could help me sort of help out with the Kickstarter campaign, my strategy. I know it's going to cost money for video. I want to do it right.
Okay.
And I don't want to.
So do you have money to hire somebody, or you want someone to do that for free?
Yes and no. I could possibly, like I'm looking out for.
So you want a consultant to help you get a crowdfunding campaign going.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone who does that?
I have to, no, I don't know anyone that offhand. I'm sure there are crowdfunding consultants. I don't know if you need to hire a consultant, like,
Yeah.
I can give you my email after. And there's so much information online. Even if you go to Indiegogo or Kickstarter, they have like full like training tutorials on there about how to build and launch your campaign, because and I'm sure you can reach, like, I worked with someone from Indiegogo when I was launching my campaign as well. Like the more money you raise, the more money they make. So they really are trying to create an infrastructure to support you to have a successful campaign. And then have you reached out to the My Team Triumph?
Yes, I have, but yeah, they don't have the money right now to
Okay, but even if they've got a big network, because the hardest thing with crowdfunding is having that initial support. So you want to be able to raise like at least 30% in your first 24 hours. So if you can have their support to push out to their network and to their customers, like, it doesn't have to be financial support for them, and maybe they have some video footage or something that you can create. And even a great, like, it's a fine balance with Kickstarter videos, because you want it to be good to tell your story, but you don't want it to be too good that people are like, well, why did you spend 20 grand on a video and you're trying to raise 20 grand? Like, it doesn't make sense. So and I think even with that, I would reach out to some of the school programs. Like, I'm sure you could find a student videographer or someone like that, or even, a lot of videographers, they might have different like passion projects that they'll work on, and they'll give you kind of subsidized rate if they believe in your message.
Okay.
But I would definitely leverage the My Team Triumphs, their network, 'cause that will be huge in the success of the campaign.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I run a computer store somewhere in Ajax, so it's called CompuSec. We have a 1,200 square foot. I'm at the point where I've spent over about 400,000. So we're trying to move to the next level. This is 400,000 of personal money. I'm wondering if I can get people who are interested, because what we do is more like peer networking, website development. So our slogan is, we refurbish, you furbish. So we actually have the community bring in a lot of used computer products, electronics, and what have you. So we service all kinds of electronics. Well, in order to raise money right now, because I'm at the point where I just got a text today telling me, oh, the 2 employees, I couldn't even pay for Veridian first. So we're in a blackout situation. So we know how to make this money. Like, we offer services, the community, we're number one, first page Google, story. But question now is, I'm at the point where I've actually invested so much. I'm looking to get franchising, maybe raise money to help. At this point, I don't need much money, because I know what we're doing. I know how to raise money, but want to go franchising at this point. So I'm wondering if anybody knows anyone who will be interested in, just buying a location,
So have you reached out to the franchising organization?
I've actually.
Who does that, basically? Who helps you with that?
Have
you reached out have you Googled around for franchising? There's some association in Canada, I'm not sure what it's called, but.
No, I haven't.
Okay, yeah, I would start there, which is, there is an association of people who franchise. They have a process that you can go through to learn how to do that, and they can help you to identify whether or not your business is right for that, and a process to go out and do it. So I would try that. Yeah.
I have some experience in franchising if you'd like to speak to me.
Ta-da!
Nice,
There you
thank
go.
you. And then what's an alternative to Veridian? Because I find it not so helpful to, that's the Veridian electric lighting or what have you, they're not very friendly with business owners. They just want you to pay so much, apart from solar, because everybody tells you go into solar energy, and that's another investment, because you have to buy all the equipment and put, does anybody have that? Instead of paying Veridian, I'm trying to get away. Because right now for phone, because we wanted to cut cost, we went into voice over IP. So as opposed to paying Bell over $100,
Right.
we now cut costs to $30 a month with 3 lines. So with Veridian, I'm wondering, does anybody know anything about that?
Yeah, I'm unaware, but does anyone? Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe put it up in the Google Doc.
Okay.
Okay, you never know.
I'm not very familiar with crowdfunding, but I'm just wondering, for food businesses, are there any crowdfunding programs?
Yeah, you can crowdfund anything. I think the key with I would start just by going to Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Those are the biggest platforms, and just looking through the different campaigns to see something that's similar to you, and you can get some ideas on how to structure your campaign. But people crowdfund everything. So I think the key to it is telling a story and articulating, like, you know, what is the emotional component of your story, and also what is the value that this business is creating. And so it's not necessarily just projects. Like, there have been movies that have been crowdfunded. They're like Vicky crowdfunded, well, I guess a book is kind of like a product, but you know, the theatrical performances, so like you can crowdfund anything. The key is just really having that strong story and being able to tell it, and how kind of you're making a social impact through your venture.
Okay, thank you.
So my question is about debating between crowdfunding or going to a publisher. So the last 2.5 years, my passion project has been helping my daughter learn Mandarin through starting a really unique Mandarin school in Toronto, because in our community there isn't a lot of Chinese-speaking people, and I wanted her to be proud of her heritage language and to really learn it. And then I did a research article for the Globe and Mail about the phenomenon of how second-gen and third-gen Canadians are losing their heritage language at really alarming rates. So kids learn really well from stories. So we're in the process of publishing a story about encouraging kids to keep their heritage language and wanting to learn it. So I know a publishing company who is interested in my story, but they would want the full manuscript, and I would lose control over illustrations. Yep. Or I could fund this privately or through crowdfunding, but I'm not really sure how to decide between the two. And I guess, Vicky, I wanted to kind of get your opinion about this.
Yeah, well, are there any publishers in the room? Okay, so you guys talk after. Yeah, I avoided publishing just because I think it's another space that's pretty challenged at the moment. And at the end of the day, you have to do all the marketing yourself anyway. So that's why I went the crowdfunding route, and it was just faster to market, and timing mattered to me. But it sounds like you've got someone there who can directly help you with that.
But do you have to be done with your story before you crowdfund, or is it just
No,
enough?
you have to be able to tell the story that you have a story.
Okay.
Right, you have to be able to convince people that there's enough there.
Yeah, like the core purpose of crowdfunding is enabling you to create this product. It's like, hey, I have this idea for this, you know, this book, and maybe there's a workshop and some sort of community around it, and you tell your story, and you're getting funding to actually execute on that. So like when I crowdfunded, I only had a prototype, and I was trying to create funding to go into production. Or some people just have an idea, and as long as you can really strongly articulate what it is and what you need and what you're going to do with the money, and make sure you stay involved with your community as well that you create through your campaign. They just want to hear your story and what you're doing, and mainly like how it's having a positive impact and what the value it's adding. So you definitely don't need to be finished. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll do one more. I'm sorry for the other three people, but last one up, please. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name's Elise, and I'm from Day Night Babysitting. We're an app that connects parents with experienced local babysitters, and we recently raised a small amount of angel funding, but we have very big plans as a woman-led tech company, and we're going to need to raise more money. And I've been thinking about this crowdfunding for equity idea, and we've been talking to Jill Earthy from Front Funder about it. And I was going to ask you, your top 3 tips for how to run a successful crowdfunding campaign, but I think you've addressed some of those in the first 24 hours are crucial and storytelling. So I guess I'm going to kind of change my question to say, what kind of a commitment is this really if we're going to crowdfund? We're a small shop, we're only 2 people. What are we really getting ourselves into if we decide to do this and we want to do it well?
Okay, yeah, so I haven't done equity crowdfunding, but if I was you, I would also look at just traditional crowdfunding as well. Could work. I don't know how much money you're trying to raise, but they could work for you as well, and then you're not actually giving up any more equity. Normally, the most successful campaigns are about 30 days. So that's when you're like active live on the campaign. I think you need to start planning about 3 or 4 months before, because you really need to line up. Or it also depends if you have existing media relationships that you can call on. For me, I was starting cold, so I started about 4 months before I launched, just starting to build those relationships with PR, because press is really important just to get the word out there and share your story. And it can take 4 months to line it up, and then have them on launch date. And then you're pretty busy during that 30 days because you're active working on it every single day. You need to send constant updates. I can't remember the exact statistics off the top of my head, but a high number of people actually re-contribute to campaigns that they've already contributed to once. So it is really important to always be sending updates and videos on what you're doing. Just the more you can engage the community in what you're doing, that they feel, then they're also going to go out to their networks and spread it that way. So I would definitely look at regular crowd or traditional crowdfunding as well. I think it could be beneficial for you.
Super, thanks.
Great. Okay, well, thank you very much everyone for coming, and I'm sorry to the people. I always feel so bad about anybody who comes to the mic and can't get help. So please email me, vicky@sheo.world, if you had a question that didn't get answered. And I guess that means everyone else can just email me too if you need to. Best way to reach me is through connect with me on LinkedIn. I answer most of the messages there. My email, I'm a little buried, but LinkedIn is great for me if you'd like to connect. And if there's anyone in my network, if you want to mine my network on LinkedIn, and you're looking for an introduction, if you send me a little paragraph, I'll introduce you to anyone in my network. I love to do that. I have a huge network. I'm never going to be able to use all the favors that they all owe me. So I'm going to share the love with all of you. So if you're bold enough to ask, I'm happy to make that intro. And thank you for coming and for taking time out of your incredibly busy lives to be here today. And I hope you enjoy your next session.